Recording. All right. Okay. Hope this goes well. So yeah, I was actually planning on saying a couple of things about Women United. I don't know if you would want to do that. If not, that's okay too.
I'll let you do it.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good.
I'll let you do it.
Here, I'll admit Kimberly. She just logged in.
But yes, if anyone wants information or wants to talk to somebody that's involved, I'm happy to, happy to speak to anyone.
Kimberly, I don't know if you've met Karen officially.
Hi, Kimberly.
Oh, you're on mute.
Mute.
The story of my life. My kids would love that button if they could only have a remote.
It's nice to meet you.
You too. You too.
Karen is the chair of our Women United group.
I know that. I have observed her in all of her glory on all these events.
Thank you.
Yeah, you do a lot for the organization. It's so
Well,
I'm here to support and help however I can. So if
That's
nobody's
wonderful.
asking questions, I'll think of something and throw it out there.
Hopefully they will. Hopefully they will. It's
Yeah.
a really great panel. So
I think it's going to be a fantastic event. I really do. So I'm excited. So I'm going to mute. I'm here. If you guys need me, just let me know.
Thank you.
Okay.
I already pushed record, so it's already recording. I don't want to forget.
Right. What time is it?
11:41. Aisha logs in soon.
By the way, can I just say how excited I am for the Magnolia event?
Yes, thank you.
I think it's going to be really terrific. Really, really terrific. So,
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, we went out and looked at some venues yesterday, so that was exciting.
Are you going to give any information about it?
Here's Soraya.
Today?
Not
Maybe it's
today.
a-
No.
Yeah.
Hi, Soraya. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Good. You'll be on video, I hope, right?
Yes, sorry. 1 second.
Okay. Not that I don't love that photo.
Just getting myself together.
Oh yeah, no, take your time. Take your time. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to. Oh, here comes Mary Beth. Right.
It's a great picture.
It is, yeah.
Need to find one of those.
Hi.
Hey, Mary Beth.
You're on mute.
Mute.
And I unmuted myself. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Is this Soraya? Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, you are stunning. Those eyes.
I know. I said, I hope you are going to be on video. Not that I don't love that photo.
Oh my gosh.
Here comes Dr. Mel.
Hi.
Hi, good
Dr.
morning.
Mel.
Morning.
We're so nice. We're so lucky to have you both.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
So we're just waiting for Aisha and Leila.
So Karen, if you were to move to your right a little bit, that would just look like your background.
I know. I can move over, right? Because it does take up a bit of space.
Nice. I love it.
It
So if you guys don't know, Mary Beth is the VP of Major Gifts for United Way of Broward County. Just wanted to introduce.
Nice to meet you.
And Karen, it says Gordon's iPad. Karen is the chair of Women United. And Kimberly Benton is the director of Major Gifts for ADT, which is our Alexis to Tocqueville. So our major gift donors.
Nice.
Yeah. And Dr. Mel and I are both from Toronto. So
Yeah, we definitely have to connect more on
We
that.
do.
That's exciting. It's so
It
nice
is.
to always meet fellow Canadians for sure.
it is. Do you miss ketchup
Oh,
chips?
wow.
Oh, every day.
I know, me too.
I love them. Yes. I miss them so much. And it's
too.
hard because all my family, most of them live in
What
Toronto.
did you say?
What are you missing?
Ketchup chips.
Ketchup chips.
It's a Canadian thing, trust me. No one gets it unless you're Canadian.
Do they actually have ketchup in them, or do you just put ketchup on top of them?
No, that's the brand. Their brand is Lay's, and they're just ketchup
Oh.
flavored. Yeah.
Oh, the potato chips. Do you refer
Yes.
to
Oh, here's
what kind
Catherine.
of chips or fries?
They're chips, like potato chips. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, I just let you in.
When I lived in England, they had all sorts of crazy flavored chips, potato chips, or crisps,
Ooh, crisp.
all sorts.
Well, they
Hi,
sound.
Melanie.
Hey, Catherine.
Hello. How you doing, Melanie? Hi, Kelley. Oh, Kelly's not on yet.
So Catherine is our Major Gifts Associate or Next Gen Associate, correct? Campaign Associate.
Next, it's Major Gifts Officer, but I
Major Gifts Officer.
run our Young Donors Group, Next Gen United.
Yes. So did we want to test out? I'm going to make you a co-host.
Melanie
for this.
Hussain for being on the Next Gen United committee. You're awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So I just made you the co-host, Catherine. So if we can
Okay.
test out. Hi, Kelley. I don't know who Teresa's iPhone is. Ah, perfect. Looking good. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hello there. Sorry if I missed that. I was grabbing something. Grabbing some water. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Kelley.
Hello. A long time no see.
I know, right? Couple hours.
Hi,
already.
Kelley.
Hello, hello.
They're waiting for, I don't know, Layla.
The woman's name is Leila?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything to run through before you start letting folks in?
So I'm going to be starting off with a welcome, doing the housekeeping, giving a brief, I don't know where Aisha is. Sorry, Aisha just texted me. Please send me the link. Okay, hold on for 1 second. I just have to send Aisha the link. Hold on for 1 second. Giving a brief overview of Women United, I'm going to introduce our panelists, introduce Aisha, and then pass the baton over to Aisha. And that's letting everyone know to put their comments in the chat box. Aisha and I will both be monitoring. And we'll answer the questions in the Q&A section. Login for the event. Okay, Aisha McDonald, there we go. Okay, let's see here who we have in the waiting room. Nope. So we still need Aisha, and we definitely need Layla, where she is. Okay, and my mouse just froze.
No freezing.
Yes, it was my mouse. Trying to find your. Yep. Hello?
Hi.
Sorry, no, I didn't. I thought it was someone for the event, but it was just a one of those calls.
I'm just running through and spotlighting people just so y'all can see what's going on behind the scenes. Kelley. Boom, there's Kelley.
Kelly, great, it looks good.
Right.
I don't know where Aisha is.
Boom.
Ah, Soraya. I don't know. Stephanie Mitri, I'll admit. Gary Sullivan.
Still waiting for Leila.
All right, I might have to call Leila here.
Macy, is there anything I can do to help you?
No, I'm good. I'm just trying to call Leila right now to figure out if she's.
Okay.
I just spoke to her yesterday, so I'm just calling her right now.
Oh, you muted yourself, Mace.
Yeah, I think she was on the phone.
Oh.
Mary Beth, are you home?
No.
Not yet?
Going on a month away. But we're driving home tomorrow.
Okay. How long will it take you?
We're in New Orleans right now, so about 12 hours. We're going to try to knock it out in one go. If anybody needs something to do this weekend, all my Christmas decorations are still up.
Right. Well, you've been gone all month.
Oh my goodness. Is anyone here the co-host? Should we start? Is there people waiting to get in? At what time?
I think Catherine is.
I'm a co-host, but I mean, I don't think I'm going to see when she actually wants to let people in.
No, that's fine. Just
Yep. No, I just let Aisha in. We can start letting people in. It's fine. I just wanted
totally
to
up
make
to
sure.
you.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure all of our.
Same thing I get. Please wait the
Good luck to everybody.
Thank you.
Break a leg. I'm in.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Great.
Hi there.
Hi, everybody. Good to see everybody.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, Mary Beth.
Hi. Oh my goodness.
How's everybody?
Yeah. Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. How you doing?
Thanks for being
It's
on.
cold
Brett.
where I am.
I hope you ladies don't mind this guy crashing your party.
Not at all. It'll
Hi,
be
everyone.
very educational for you.
We'll just let everyone in.
Hey, Carrie,
Hi there.
Nicole, Angie. Debbie, how are you?
Hey, Mary Beth.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi. I just wrote Macy to ask if it was canceled because I couldn't get on.
Oh, no. Oh, no, no. Probably so many people trying to get on at one time. I feel like we need background music.
Hey, Lori. Lori Ann Minoff and Lori Rosen.
Hey, how's
Our
everyone?
first lady.
Hi, everybody. I think I heard my name.
Yes, Lori Rosen.
Hey, Macy. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. What's happening?
Not much.
Looking forward to a good event.
That's exciting. Yeah, we got a lot of people just coming on board here. I couldn't get on at first, so.
Yeah, I think probably a lot of people are just trying to get on at the same time. And
yeah, could be.
Hi, Jamie. Welcome in on. Looks like Angie Davis is still connecting.
We'll just give it a couple more minutes, ladies, to be mindful of everyone's time.
ladies and Brooks.
And Brooke, yes.
We're always so impressed when that one man comes into a Women United event. We love it.
Not shy, that's for sure.
Oh, wow, got a good crowd here.
We have over 55 folks registered, so.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Jacqueline Mosley, good to see you.
Hello,
Nicole
everyone. How's
and
everybody
Lindsay.
doing?
Hi, Jacqueline. All right. Just give it a couple more minutes, ladies, then we'll get started. Ladies and Brooke. Brooks. Here comes Sasha Min.
Oh my gosh, it's so good to see so many people. Hey, Sybil.
All right, so I think we're going to go ahead and get started in about 1 minute because it's 11:58. So just want to be mindful of everyone's time. Let's just give it till 11:59. So literally a 60-second countdown.
Penelope.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So I wanted to welcome everyone to our LIVE event. My name is Macy Markowitz. I am the Director of Women's Philanthropy for United Way of Broward County. So welcome, thank you so much for joining us. I just wanted to take a quick moment to go over some housekeeping. Everyone will be muted by default, so we won't be disrupted by latecomers. You are welcome to use the chat box throughout the discussion to put in some questions. We will be monitoring the chat box, so please put in all of your questions for the panelists and we will answer them at the end. So thank you so much, like I said, to coming for our LIVE event. This is the second in our EAT.LIVE.SAVE series for Women United. For those of you who are not familiar with Women United is about women knowing and understanding the issues facing our community and rolling up their sleeves to help. Our powerful network of women confronts head-on the most critical issues facing our community. We are a diverse and vibrant group bound together by our belief in each other, to United Way's mission and to Broward County. If you would like to join us to be a part of solution, share your ideas, your strengths, and your passion, feel free to reach out to me directly, or you can reach out to Karen Porras, who is also she's the chair of Women United, and she's also on this event as well. So we will put that information in the chat box. So I'm going to now take the time to introduce our panelists and our moderator. So our first panelist, Soraya Papayoute. Soraya received her master's degree in social work from Barry University in 2018, where she was able to put into practice the values instilled in her. She has volunteered her time, talents, and treasures in many nonprofit organizations, but her ultimate passion to help others heal and find their purpose. Soraya is the founder and CEO of Healing Wounds Coaching and Consulting, a new and developing business to assist individuals heal from their past traumas through a variety of evidence-based curriculums and modalities. She strongly believes that her purpose is to help others reach their fullest and highest potential by healing from their past wounds. Next up, we've got Dr. Melanie H. Hussain, or as we like to call her, Dr. Mel. She earned her doctoral degree in marriage and family therapy from Nova Southeastern University. Her focus on the understanding and empowerment of the self is based on a holistic approach to mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. Her objective is to listen to her clients, their stories, and the unique background that shapes their lives. Her approach is a multi-process, which includes self-empowerment strategies, mood, and appearance therapy. She provides guidance and support for medical patients, families, physicians, professors, women's issues, and those struggling with body image and the LGBTQ community. Next up, we have Lealia Adeagbo. Lealia is a licensed mental health counselor, qualified supervisor, master's certified addiction professional, and licensed practical nurse in Broward County, South Florida. She spent the last 30 years providing direct mental health addiction services and nursing care to a diverse population in the Broward County community. And finally, last but not least, Kelley Rheault. Kelley is a Florida native that grew up in Fort Lauderdale. She joined the Air Force after high school and served for 6 years as an airborne German linguist. After her military service, she attended Montana State University and received a degree in business, focusing on international business. She became a business owner running her own agency with Legal Shield for over 20 years. In this role, she has worked with many large multinational companies, trained hundreds of new agents, spoken in front of numerous groups, received recognition as the #1 associate in the state of Florida, and is currently ranked as one of the top 100 associates worldwide. In 2018, she received her life and business coaching certificate and launched the Transitioning Warrior, a veterans organization that supports military men and women in discovering their purpose and passion after they leave the military. Her mission is to empower others to live their best life. What an amazing group of panelists we have today. It is just so impressive. And now I'll introduce our moderator. Aisha McDonald is a licensed mental health counselor and certified trauma expert who has worked in the social services field for over 12 years. She has worked with marginalized populations within South Florida, especially those with severe persistent mental illness, the forensic population, individuals with co-occurring mental health and substance use disorders, youth in the welfare system, and individuals who are involuntarily hospitalized. She is the lead trainer coordinator for the United Way of Broward County, where she facilitates the mental health first aid program and coordinates community trainings for our local social services provider. Aisha also regularly facilitates local and nationwide trainings focused on mental health awareness and education, racial and cultural trauma, substance use issues, as well as diversity and inclusion and social equity. She also serves as an expert on panels and discussions to help promote community awareness and professional development on these topics. And we are just so lucky to have Aisha on board. She is an incredible staff member and also really skilled and trained in her field. So now I'm going to pass the baton over to Aisha so we can get started with this amazing event and with a discussion with our panelists. Thank you so much, ladies, and welcome.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect. Right as Macy was doing my introduction, my internet went out. And so I was panicking, but it came back on. So thankfully, we're good to go. Thank you all so much for being here. We have such a wonderful range of expertise with our panel list today. I'm here listening to just the bios and the background, and I'm here like, yes, it's gonna be a good conversation. And so I'm always grateful when people take time out of their day to come and sit with us and to learn and to enhance the professional development, but also just the basic community information that our panelists are sure to share today. And so I want to really start with Kelley. And Kelley, I know that you have so much personal experience as a veteran and with the organization that you have developed to support military women. And so for you, what is an important factor in addressing the behavioral health concerns in respect to military culture?
Well, thank you so much, Aisha. And I'm just honored to be here. Obviously, there's just millions of women veterans, but just happy to be part of the Broward County community, part of United Way. I'm on the advisory council with Mission United, and it's just such a pleasure working with all of you. And yeah, you know, one of the main factors, as you know, there's so many different pieces to the puzzle, obviously, when it comes to mental health for any of us in any of the categories, but with veterans, I think that there just needs to be involvement a lot sooner. You know, transitioning warrior, where I came up with that name, right, is the transitioning time. That's really the whole focus of Mission United, is that that transitioning time for veterans. And you know, there could be a few programs, maybe there's a day or two of seminars, but most veterans, most military, as we're getting out, just don't even know the resources that are available. And there's so much going on during that time for us. And so I think if we could just engage a lot sooner in the process, you know, so that the veterans can stay connected right away. You know, we have such a huge support system in the military, you know, and just the brothers and sisters and the camaraderie and, you know, being right there in combat together. And, you know, when you lose that support system, you know, finding that new one is very difficult. And so I think that if you know, as we're transitioning, if we could be introduced directly to the VA, or, you know, I know a lot of veterans still aren't plugged into the VA, but just other resources. There's so much in the community. You know, our hope, right, is that there'll be, you know, Mission Uniteds in every city, and they can be connected to Mission Uniteds right away, and just know that there are places for help. Because you know, as we're transitioning, there's so many different things that happen, right? Some of us go back home. Maybe we're stationed somewhere and we're going back home for the first time. So you're really overwhelmed with all of that, being reconnected with family and friends. And so that first immediate need, you know, isn't there. But then slowly, as the days wear on and the welcome home parties stop, and you're just getting reacclimated, all of a sudden when that support system's gone, you just feel alone. And I think that's where a lot of the problems start. So I think if the military could help more, or if organizations could be there again to kind of, as the baton is being passed from active duty into that veteran status, and more of that connection and that continued care. I guess I'll talk more about, it's very tough for veterans to ask for help, right? It's really seen as a sign of weakness. And so if we knew that there was a structure, we were so structured while we were in. So if there was a structure of follow-up care afterwards, I think that would help tremendously.
Thank you so much. That was a really, really good point that you made about the need for connection and community and social support, especially when it's a major life change. And assimilating back to civilian life for a lot of individuals can really just throw us off. And so thank you for such wonderful points made.
Thank you.
I want to go to Dr. Mel. As a doctor of marriage and family therapy, what are some of the holistic approaches that social service or any healing professional can provide to individuals to promote a more positive mental, emotional, physical, and also spiritual health?
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I really love this question because there are a vast amount of social services and social service professionals, not just therapists or those in mental health or social workers, but there's so much more that work day to day to help others. And it's so important to meet clients and meet individuals where they are. So when I think of a holistic approach, it's about looking at someone's entire story and their entire being as a whole, and looking at the person as an entity in itself. And so for me, like, I practice from a natural systems lens, working relationally and also understanding the biopsychosocial and spiritual process of a client, as everything is interrelated and connected, from biological factors, let's say health related, or psychological factors, mental health concerns, and socially as well, from community, individuals, and family support system, a social support system. And we have to look at the bigger picture and some approaches that may be beneficial to individuals. And it's all contingent on what they're experiencing. So everyone's experience is totally different. So some approaches include physical activity, let's say to boost endorphins, to shift brain chemistry. We all know that mind and body exercises such as yoga, dance therapy, Tai Chi, things that allow you to be so connected in yourself is really important as well. And there's also a multitude of therapies as well. So massage therapy, hypnotherapy, art therapy for self-expression. Practicing mindfulness is really important to promote and boost self-esteem as well. A lot of people really love energy healing, such as Reiki. Some of my clients have found that important. So I reach out to those that do Reiki practices and things like that, because it's about integration and collaboration. Also, equine therapy, a lot of individuals and clients have a hard time self-expressing. So using equine, like the horses, to feed off of each other's energy, that has been really beneficial in a big approach as well. And the family system gets to be a part of that as well. And also for me, I use style therapy. So that isn't just incorporating an individual, but it's the whole family and the whole support system. And taking a holistic approach to long-term mental health, it allows for one to embrace positive change and positive shifts throughout their process. And it's really about finding what really motivates and really inspires someone. So those are my suggestions and some approaches to holistic healing.
Thank you so much. It is so important how you mentioned taking an individualistic approach, because we need to meet people where they're at and meet their needs and feed their interests. And if we go into therapy as healing professionals or any social service thinking that it's one size fit all, we are not doing a justice to the clients and the individuals that we're serving. So it's so important that you mentioned that. I want to go over to Lealia, who has so many titles behind her name, so many letters. So Layla, as a licensed clinician and addictions professional, a licensed nurse, how do you recommend that individuals and communities can build resilience, especially in the current circumstances where we're dealing with a health pandemic and all the related social stressors that so many individuals are facing today?
Hi. Well, one of the things about building resilience is remembering that we've already accomplished and gone through so much. Remembering back to when something was difficult and you pulled through, you were able to do it. So having a strength-based approach. What are you good at? What do you know how to do? And let's build on those strengths. As well as being in the community, asking older individuals, what did you do during the Great Depression? What did you do when, and two things that does. One, it helps younger people, and whatever you want to determine as younger. Anybody who wasn't in the Great Depression, I would consider younger at this point. To realize that, you know, life goes in ebbs and waves. We're going to have good times, we're going to have bad times, and we do get through them. We get through them best when we cooperate, when we reach out for help, when we look outside of ourselves and help others as well. We can look back to the last hurricane, the last flood, any of those things, and say, what did people do that really helped each other get through it? Because we can't do it by ourselves. So it's also really important that during these times that people are honest and truthful about what their needs are. When Kelley said that veterans don't want to admit that they have weaknesses, well, veterans aren't the only ones. I mean, a lot of us have been trained to, you know, tough it out, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. But as the world becomes a lot more connected, it's really important that we do two things. One, ask for the help we need. I would say grown-ups ask for help, ask for what they need. And then we also look around to see what service we can be to others, because that's also a way for us to feel more in control, more empowered. There are many things out of our control during this pandemic, but certainly I say if something's bothering you and you can fix it, get in there and fix it, because I'm very action-based and behavioral-based in terms of sometimes people know what the problem is, and they've known what the problem is for a great deal of time and they have a great deal of insight. But what they lack is that action piece that takes them to the recovery, where they can start to begin to make changes. So yeah, we can do therapy online during this pandemic. That's something new that's come up, but also the support groups have been doing that kind of stuff for a long time. Recovery groups have been reaching out and saying, have 10 friends and call. Where are your phone numbers? What's in your toolkit? Are you calling your resources? Are you calling your sponsor? Are you calling your neighbor? Anybody who you can speak with, because it's the isolation in this epidemic that's really been also a problem. And just trying to break that isolation and stay connected.
Thank you so much for that. I myself am a very solution-focused type of therapist too. And so, okay, we're going to talk in the first session about what the problem is. We're going to talk in the second session about the problem is. By the third session, we're going to come up with solutions to what the problem is, because we're not going to keep complaining about the issues over and over again if there is the ability to make changes. Some things are outside of our external level of control that we absolutely cannot change. But if we can, then we're going to start making those steps to make those changes. So thank you so much. I want to skip over to Soraya, who is the founder of Healing Wounds Coaching and Consulting, and has such significant personal background, especially as the child of immigrants from Haiti, as well as your own work in the Black and Caribbean community. Can you speak on how we can promote healing from trauma, especially in our communities, when it's regarding vulnerable and ethnic racial populations?
Well, I think that the first step is education. A lot of people don't know what trauma is, and they don't even know that they're experiencing it. They don't know that that this thing is happening to them, especially in our community, especially in the Black community, in the ethnic community, because they have a mentality of being strong. Everyone has kind of said that, you know, of the veterans saying that they're strong, so they have a hard time asking for help. I believe, from what I've seen in the Black community, is that we have that mentality of being strong, and I think it goes back to like slavery times, you know, generations. It doesn't even have to be like in this country, but just in everywhere. We have this mentality of just keep going, you know, like we're just going to keep going. We're not going to talk about it, keep moving, because you have no choice. You know, there's a lot of people who had no choice to keep going. And so I think education about what trauma is, how this is affecting your body, how this is affecting the relationships that you're having, you know, how you treat people, how you treat yourself. It's really big. And, you know, people think of like trauma, their first thought is like, you know, PTSD, which is associated with veterans again. But I think that there's, at least in this community, we also have PTSD. I think I've heard someone actually say post-traumatic slave disorder. You know, that's like a big thing, you know, just this mentality of continuing to be hurt and still going and not dealing and letting things just pile up and pile up and pile up. But as you can see, I mean, I don't know if you can see, but it comes out in generations. It shows up. And to be aware of these things are happening. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. That is so important that you pointed out the generational impact of trauma, because we inherit our trauma from our parents and our grandparents and those beyond us. And sometimes trauma doesn't look like what people expect it to look like. I think people's idea of trauma is really very much associated with the image of military vets coming back from deployment, when trauma can be so much more, and you can be impacted in trauma by so many different things. We've all been experienced a collective shared trauma for almost the past year. This is something significant that's affecting every single one of us in this country, albeit in different ways. And it's so important. I saw someone in the chat box say, defining and understanding what trauma is, thank you, Kimberly, is so important, because if people don't have knowledge of what the issue is, they oftentimes don't recognize it as being an issue in their own life. And so I want to take a little break because I want to ask the audience and the participants, if you have any questions for any of our panelists today, please make sure that you just put it in the chat box. I want to give them some time to be able to address any of the issues or questions that everyone here may have and want answers to before I get into our second round of questions. So I see a few different comments. I'm guessing that this comment is for Dr. Mel, but I'm gonna just say it for all of the panelists. Someone says, you all look beautiful, and Sharon is here and she stated that you look beautiful too. And so while that may be for Dr. Mel, I'm telling it to all our panelists. You're all beautiful, intelligent experts right now. And so I have one question, any of the panelists can unmute and chime in if you want to address this one. And it says, can you provide some examples of what trauma might look like?
Okay, I guess I'll say something. I can give you like the clinical term. Some people, they would say like, you know, recurring dreams, you know, having like anxiety. They say hypervigilance, meaning like always being startled. I can give you like these clinical terms, but the way it looks is possibly like someone who probably avoids people, you know, has like major trust issues, you know, difficulty in relationships. And we may look at these things and think like, oh, okay, they're just whatever. But again, going back to what Dr. Mel was saying, like their history, the things that they've been through, the whole story. What is their story? What has happened to them? That's one of the things I heard maybe a few years ago, people would always look at someone and ask, or we used to look at people and say, what's wrong with this person? And now we ask, what happened to you? You know, we don't know what may have happened, and it looks different for everyone. With someone may be, you know, self-medicating with substance use, you know, and that may be what they're using to like stop the memories of their trauma. You know, their trauma looks different depending on who it is and what their story is.
Thank you. That was such a good answer. And I've always loved the fact that we're changing in the field. Instead of asking what's wrong with you, we're not asking what happened to you, because what we're seeing on the outward behavior is not necessarily a person's true personality, and doesn't give us the full story and background as to what they're going through. When there's so many significant traumatic events that happen in individuals' life that may cause their behavior to look oppositional, to look defiant, to look aggressive, when really and truly it's a response to the situation that they've been dealing with. And also individuals who have complex trauma, as trauma doesn't necessarily just happen from one event. Trauma happens from complex situations over and over again. I tell people all the time, it's traumatic to be Black in America. It's traumatic for me to get up every single day and go out in the world because I'm in fear of what may happen to me because of my skin color. And so that leads us into another question. And this one is specifically for Dr. Mel. Can you speak about the differences growing up in Canada and now living in the United States as it may relate to the treatment of cultural and ethnic communities?
Yeah, I love this question. I think that for me, I'll give a brief backstory. So my parents are from Guyana, South America. I am a Caribbean, West Indian woman, so proud of it. And being from that place of noticing my parents immigrated to Toronto, Canada, in which they went through their own hardships, and then moving children that we moved to Michigan. And then I actually spent most of my time growing up in rural West Virginia. And a very small town, 4 stoplights. My family, we were the first family of color in a Caucasian community. So as you can really imagine and situate yourself into a place of, I had my mom, my dad, and my sister and I, and that's it. So the bullying, the discrimination, the racism, all of that, of the experiences that so many people of color, the Black community, I can completely empathize in knowing what it's like to not be a part of and having to be other. And then recognizing, well, where do you go and how do you build from there? And I only had my parents. So we had every reason to move, to leave after my parents were facing discrimination and racism, and also my sister and I. And the one thing that I will always remember is the importance of psychoeducation. And my parents were, was very much in my community, in my culture of being West Indian. And they have always ingrained that in my being of, this is who we are, this is our culture, this is our background. We need to educate others about who we are, what we represent, because assumptions are always made. And so when it comes to, I want to read the question, really, the treatment of cultural and ethnic communities, it looks different, I think, for everybody, but the most important thing is being culturally sensitive. And that's a pinnacle of my work as well. As I'm always like, what's your ethnic background? What's your cultural background? I never love the question, what are you? Because it's like, well, do you mean by a lot, like where I'm from, or like, that's a very tough question. So it's really about understanding, again, a person's whole story and what they are, and really, when it comes to treatment of cultural and ethnic communities and being someone from a cultural and ethnic background, it's about understanding the hardships. Soraya mentioned the trauma that comes with that, generational trauma, and also the ways in which your culture impacts you now in society, and then what you want to build for your future as well. And it's about melting the two together and creating a more wholesome experience. So that's what I've learned from my upbringing, as well as how I decide to practice and build with my clients and those that I meet as well.
I love it. Also, big up to my Caribbean family. Always a pleasure when we're in a shared space. I saw you, Soraya. I have another question, and I'm going to direct this to Lealia, because not only are you a mental health practitioner, you're also a licensed nurse. So you get the aspect of both the mental health side, but also the physical impact. And so this question asks, how can we stop or slow down generational trauma? And how do we recognize what we might be passing down?
Okay, sorry, I unmuted myself. Generational trauma shows up in a lot of different ways. And what I always ask my clients is, I say, you know, we all, when we leave our families, we pack a suitcase and we take our stuff with us to our new families and our new lives that we create. So what is wonderful about your culture and your heritage that you want to keep? And what were the things that you think you would wish to leave behind? What would you want your family to look like, and still honoring where you come from, but improving upon it? My grandmother's from St. Croix, actually. My mother's from Harlem. So it's like I'm all over the place. My father was born in Georgia. I mean, so I'm married to an African. So I have lots of cultural pieces that I can look at. But for each of us, even if you're a white person born in Appalachia, you have a culture. You have something that you're bringing with you that you may want to keep, and there's some things you may want to leave behind. So being sensitive to, okay, this is how I was raised. This is what is the norm in my community. What's the things we want to keep, and what are the things that I want to relinquish? And that's how we break generational trauma. When we're so reactive to things, we need to be more self-aware. Why am I so upset with my child because they stayed out, beyond curfew? Well, if you're a mother of a Black child or a father of a Black child, you are really concerned that they stayed out after curfew, because we're not just talking about being disobedient, we're talking about being safe. So lots of things are going to change. So how do you communicate that to your children without handing on the baton of the trauma, but still being aware that, hey, this is still reality. It's 2021 and I'm concerned if my kid's out with a hoodie. I'm still concerned. So it's not all gone, but in terms of being more aware of things like high blood pressure, diabetes, why is these things continuing in our community above and beyond infant mortality, beyond what's the norm for the general population, and realizing we have some things that we can change. Can't change everything, but there are things that we can change, and we need to do more self-care than the average person in America, because we're dealing with more stress. Even just like you said, when you walk out the door in the morning, we're dealing with more stress than other groups in America. I was one of 14 children bused to an all-white school in New Jersey, in America. So, I hear what Dr. Mel was saying. But again, then you send your kids to school, and there's that expectation that we have. Will they be safe? Will they be okay? I remember what happened to me. So communicating with our children about the things that are going on and getting them help when they need help, I think is a way to, I don't know if we can break it, but we certainly can soften the transition from generation to generation by being aware of it and being motivated to impact it where we can and whatever ways we can.
I think that was so significant what you said. I think a lot of the times we focus on the impact of the generational trauma that we're passing on, but it's important to realize too that we can also pass on generational healing. I remember being a young child. My father's family has a history of generational impact that happens from my grandmother and my father, things that happen. And I remember after he got married to my mother, growing up, my mother would say, "Oh no, it stops with my kids." Like that was her statement to us every single time. She was like, "It stops here. I'm nipping this in the bud." Like, yeah, the genetics, just like with any medical condition, if I know that I have a family history of diabetes and I'm aware of it, I can do preventative things to hopefully not develop diabetes later on in life. And so how aware are we? How are we educating the future generations? And what type of healing are we promoting to have more generational healing instead of generational trauma? So I want to move on to the next set of questions for our panelists. So I'm going to answer this last question, and I'm going to answer it myself because I actually just had this question come up in a training that I did for law enforcement on Monday morning. And so the training and the question is, can we speak about the racial double standard between the crack epidemic and the opiate epidemic? I like the fact that you pointed out in your question that it's a racial double standard. In the 80s, when crack and cocaine was launched and it was increasing and it was a significant issue, it was a significant issue in certain low income and minority racial communities. And so the best way to address that and was based on the moral failure model that we had in regards to people who have substance use conditions. Instead of really recognizing substance use as a brain disease that affects people's mental and physical health, it was more so said to be, these are bad people doing bad things and they need to be punished. And the war on drugs was launched. And the consideration behind it was that if you punish people for doing bad things, they'll stop doing drugs. And how successful was that? Because the drug rates have not decreased in our country for the past 30-something years. In fact, there's been an increase not only of the kinds of drugs people use, but also the amount of individuals that were incarcerated because of drug-related charges. When the opiate epidemic started, and I will say this, there is also a bias in the medical community when it comes to the treatment of Black individuals. And this is something that one of our colleagues here at United Way works on as part of her health equity program in addressing these issues and educating medical professionals. But the bias in the medical community was that Black people don't feel pain as intensely as white people feel pain. And there have been studies where they have interviewed and they've documented these questions that they have asked doctors, medical professionals, nurses, about the rate of how they were prescribing or administering pain medication to different patients of different racial backgrounds. And they recognized that they weren't giving Black people as many painkillers in hospital settings because their concept was that they're strong enough to bear the pain. That's the basic assumption. They're strong enough to bear the pain. They don't feel pain as intensely, or they're lying about the amount of pain that they're feeling. And I don't want to give them a medication because they're drug seeking because they're lying about it. Unfortunately, because of that bias, and it's an unfortunate but kind of savior-in thing, unfortunately, Black people weren't being prescribed opiate medication at high rates that their white counterparts were, which in turn saved a lot of Black individuals from developing serious opioid addictions, because there were a lot of individuals who that was how their opioid addiction started, was with prescription pain pills. And we saw that reflected in a high increase of opioid addiction in primarily white and middle and upper class communities. And the way that we addressed that societally was completely different. Whereas in the 80s, these were bad people who were morally failing, doing bad things, and they needed to be punished. When it was happening in higher income families and in the white majority population, it was, oh no, my cousin, my brother, my sister, my mother would never. Obviously, they're sick and something is wrong with them. We need to give them help. And so services were put in place to address the opioid epidemic that were more beneficial to the white counterparts who were suffering from these types of addictions that were not put in place for individuals in the 80s who had cocaine and crack addictions. And unfortunately, that is a systemic issue that shows proof of the disparities between how people of racial minorities are treated and how the white majority is treated, even when it's the same problem. Substance addiction is substance addiction. Everyone with a substance addiction has a disease that needs to be treated. Unfortunately, some were punished for this disease, whereas now we have seen the incorporation of a lot of treatment modalities to address the issues, because it's happening now in people's own backyard, and I want to make sure my people get help. How dare you try to send them to jail? And systemically, we need to work on that, as we need to work on a lot of other things in this society. So that's my brief little, I can go on forever, but you all don't want to hear me. You came for the experts on our panel. So I want to go on to the second set of questions. And I want to start with Kelley again, because you brought this up really, really briefly in your first points. And I held on to it because I want you to expound a little bit further in the time that we have left for the second round of questions. For you, what are some of the key issues that relate to the stigma of mental health within military culture that creates that barrier towards individuals seeking the help and being able to live their full purpose?
Yes, it's a great question. And I know it does run along, a lot of the conversation and the issues, and just women in general, right? We're supposed to be stronger. And then going into this man's world where, we're just supposed to deal with it. And, it was this whole concept of, we want inclusion and we want to be seen as equal. And so we shouldn't bring up our other issues. And so we kind of squash them down. And yet then they come up, and then it's seen as weakness when we go, well, we really are different. Of course, women in battlefield. And like I said, as a German linguist, I mean, the base that I went to, this was a new mission, a combat mission. I was one of the first women in that combat mission. And so we didn't want to raise our hand and say something was wrong. We just had to say, well, if we're not going to make these strides, if I start complaining now, we're not going to move forward. And so we just need to deal with it. And again, in the military in general, we're the heroes, right? We're supposed to be the ones helping and serving and supporting and rescuing everybody else. And so if we say we need to be rescued, that it just doesn't work. And then just on a real level, a lot in the military, we have some kind of security clearance. And so just on a daily basis, it was that whole, we could lose our whole career, our whole security clearance. We could have disciplinary action, by raising our hands. So you almost felt like, well, let's just stick together, let's figure it out together. But we can't talk to the chain of command. We can't go and really ask for the help we need, because that might be the end of our career. And I love what everybody's talking about, the generations and where we came from. And that's one thing about the military too, is, we all, like I love how you said that, about taking our baggage, right? So we're all coming into this with our own baggage that probably wasn't addressed. And then we add what the military is doing, and that psychological and emotional and those stressors. And then those things that we brought from childhood, I've done a ton of work on myself throughout the years. Luckily, I was just one that any seminar, any reading I could do, my spiritual beliefs, I've just always searched that out from a position of curiosity, right? Where did this come from? Because again, I grew up in foster care, never met my father, was raised eventually by my aunt mostly. And I think that was one of the reasons I went in the military at 17, right? Just to really go, I just need a clean slate. I need to get away and figure out who I am. But we're bringing all that with us. And so I think that that's an issue too. And gosh, Dr. Mel, when you said about personalized care, that goes into it, right? Because I think a lot of times with the military, they think, again, the one size fits all, like you mentioned, that, well, you're military, so you have these issues going on. But no, again, carrying the baggage, we all came from a different background. Now we're here and we have this community issues that we all dealt with however we could. And now all of a sudden, we need that personalized care. You can't just, one of the biggest complaints when I'm working with any clients through Transitioning Warrior or talking with other veterans is so quickly the VA, it's just easier, just let's prescribe something. There was not a lot of talk therapy. There weren't a lot of, other holistic ways, and it was looked down upon. And so it was just, well, just put them on something and that'll help them. And I know that Judy Weaver is on, the founder of Connected Warriors. And Dr. Mel, you mentioned yoga and mindfulness, and that just has helped me tremendously in my own life. And I just love that it's becoming more mainstream now, that it's, yoga at the workplace and yoga, on bases, and kids are doing yoga and the meditation and just, so I think what's so important is just to take the holistic and the personalized approach and realize that, yes, it might be that we were all on the same mission together, or we were deployed together and we all experienced some of that trauma, but that was, everybody reacts differently. And so we need to really personalize care a lot more, in the veteran community, and having all these community resources. I mean, my goodness, it's just so incredible the way the communities are acknowledging veterans and wanting to help. And really, like I know specifically through Connected Warrior, I was a client first, being able to get this free yoga. And then I had a chance to meet Judy at an event, and I raised my hand. I said, oh my gosh, you're the one that started it. I do 2 free yoga classes a week, and it was just so neat to see how finally the resources are being talked about. And we're finally having places and forums like this where somebody goes, oh, okay, that is out there. I don't have to figure it out all by myself. And so, and when it comes to the racial stuff, I have to say, I'm just so, that's just one of the gifts, again, that the military gave me, right? Because we were from small towns, big towns, every background, and we were just all put in together, and you never even thought about it. And it's never an issue. Your supervisor or your commander was this or that, and it was never looked at as cultural backgrounds or, color of your skin. I mean, we could get in big, big trouble for that. And so I wish that if anything we could bring into, the civilian world even more is that, that color blindness and just that inclusion. That really, meant a lot. And I obviously brought that into my life, and I teach that to my son. And so that kind of helps, answering some of those other questions, right, about the generational, but it definitely is communication. And I'm just so grateful, again, for all that the military gave me, especially that.
Thank you so much for answering that. That was interesting and informative to really just know the broad scope of how military culture. I will say this, and just because it's not ever something that I can make pass up, but for people of color, we don't want you to be colorblind. We want you to see our color. It is such an important It is such an important factor of my lifestyle. Being Black is not only my race, it's my culture, it's my heritage, it's my history. And as Black History Month approaches, I know that a lot of the times we consider color blindness to be the ideal, but I want you to see my culture. I want you to ask me about my ethnic background. I want you to learn more about my struggles and what I go through, because being colorblind means that you're missing the best part of me. My Blackness is fantastic.
Yeah, and I guess that was more what it was, is when you're sitting around in basic training with everybody, you're talking about your life and your, yes. So I'll shift that. Thank you. Because it really isn't the blindness. It's more of the
sensitivity and an appreciation.
The love of diversity, just the love of it.
And I will say that about my my veteran friends, is that I do see that appreciation for everyone a lot more from a lot of my veteran friends, a lot more openness, because listen, when this person has your life in their hands and you're dependent on them to save you in the event of anything, then you're going to love them regardless. So I'm checking our time, and I'm actually went back over the questions, and I realized that some of my questions were already answered because you guys have just been given so much information today. But there was one that I really wanted to focus on before we ended. And I saw, Kelley, you mentioned Dr. Mel a few times. So I wanted Dr. Mel just to speak on, because this is specific to the work that you do. How have you incorporated the use of fashion and style therapy as a means of self-expression, as well as a coping tool, especially in the LGBTQ community?
Yeah, I light up every time I get to talk about this, as it's such a big part of my core. And in my years of practicing, I've learned, personally and professionally, that identity of self is it's the most important for a person, along with self-image. And the expression of self is a large component in my work as a marriage and family therapist, as a style therapist, and styling from the inside out and the outside in. So just think about it for a minute. When we get dressed in the morning, day, whenever, we get to tell the world a little bit about who we are without even speaking. And that's so powerful and empowering. And when it comes to wearing the clothes, that our clothes speak for ourselves, as it's a form of nonverbal communication. And in my practice model, I've incorporated the use of clothing and style therapy as a means for my clients to self-express. And I focus on how my clients see themselves. How do you aim to understand who you are as a being? I have them make personal reflections. Self-reflecting is a core key component. And I ask them what they deserve from themselves and to themselves. Like, I deserve to feel fulfilled. I deserve to show myself more self-compassion. And as we explore their story, unraveling of the emotional layers, they reflect and internally, and because it's about collaboration, we create and design the life that they want for themselves and that they envision. And as we're all stylists of our own lives, and we co-create and co-design what they want for themselves and what it truly looks and what it feels like. And throughout that process, we build self-esteem and self-worth and self-value, and looking at how can I really show up for myself in bringing a big part of their background, their own story as a whole entity. And thinking about that was a big part of myself growing up, and self-image of, I want to look like my friends, but how can I, because they're all Caucasian and I don't look anything like them, or I want to be like that, and struggling as a young girl with that, but using that as fuel to the work that I do now in my core being is, how can you value and really see yourself for who you are and your own identity of self? And that is crucial in the LGBTQ plus community, is as the identity of self carries much more weight. As we all know the term of coming out, like they're like, how do I come out to my parents? How do I come out to my friends? I'm afraid of, and the stressors that comes with freeing oneself. I will never know that weight that they carry, that the community carries. And I always like to reframe. And I call it, like, for my clients that come in and even my friends, I tell them, this is your leaning in process, that you're leaning into your authentic and true self and your true authentic being, that you want to tell the world about who you really are. And asking, how do you want to show up for yourself, for a community that faces so much fear and judgment from their families and friends and from society, not being enough. The community may feel less than. The internal conversations of, how do I understand the feminine and masculine sides of myself, but embrace that. And that's a huge part of that. As I speak with them, it's not one or the other. How can you embrace all aspects? And it's everything is about the energy shifting of that. And so it's crucial to explore their own self, their identity. What version do they want to create for themselves? Because they get to show up for themselves, but they need a reminder and they need that push and someone to really hold that space. And small things we think about in the trans community. If I have a client that I'm like, what does putting on a pair of heels mean? And their face may light up of, this is what it looks like. This is who I want to be. Or if I want to wear a blazer, what does that look like? What does that feel like? And I encourage them to self-reflect on using their clothing to really speak for themselves, because sometimes it may really be hard to use our words. And how can you feel empowered by the clothing that you wear and also feel comforted? Because those are the two most important things. And in remaining connected with yourself and also being selfless with yourself. And that's one of the most important things to style the life the way that you deserve. And that's kind of a big proponent of who I am and the work that I do too.
I love that so much. I want you to come and style me, because you know what? The essential basis of it is, when you look good, you feel good.
Yes. Yes.
So if I can help you look and feel better, like we're going to do it based on what you need, especially in the LGBTQ community where fashion it's a thing. We are almost out of time. I see questions in the chat box, and I wish we had an hour more to talk about all these things. I see someone asking about the racial disproportionality in the child welfare system. I see someone talking about the inclusion of people of color in the military with the comparison to how women are viewed. We do not have all the time for such wonderful questions. I am hoping that Macy will do this again so that we can get into the racial disparities as well as the intersectionality issues for individuals who are multiple identities that are being oppressed. That's a whole other conversation. Guys, ask Macy for my email because I could talk to you all day long in regards to those things. And so I see the last comments in the chat box says the way to dress for success is great. And sometimes that success is, dressing for success when you're looking for a job. And sometimes that success is just dressing to make yourself feel good. I know that this work from home situation has been negative in a lot of ways for so many people. And here's my little Dr. Mel hint today. If you're staying in your PJs all day long, it's not going to make you feel good. I get up in the morning and I get dressed like I'm going for work. I put on my United Way shirts for all my meetings. I dress so that I can get into the mindset that I am dressed to do something, because if I stay in my PJs, I'm going to binge watch Netflix. That's what PJs are for. And so thank you all so much. Thank you so much for your expert opinions and just information that you shared today. I really enjoyed this discussion. It's one of the best panels that I've done in a while. And I'm going to turn it back over to Macy. I just want everyone to know that in the event that you know of anyone who needs any type of help, any connection to resources, 211 is there. 211 is free, and 211 has access to so many community resources that can help individuals in so many different ways. And so please just make sure that you are always giving that resource to individuals who may need access to help. And for us, just personally, we've been going through a whole pandemic, a whole Panasonic, a whole pandemic. It is okay to not feel okay. It's okay if you have bad days. It's okay if you have days where you're just not doing your best. Give yourself some grace. And also, if you need help, reach out and get the help. So thank you, Macy. Back over to you.
Thank you so much, Aisha. And I wanted to thank everyone for attending such an amazing event. I also wanted to thank the United Way staff for helping out with all of the Zoom logistics and any other things that we needed them with. And I also want to give a special thanks to Aisha, Dr. Mel, Kelley, Lealia, and Soraya for being here today. What an amazing, diverse group of women. I wanted to let everyone know that our next Women United event will be on March 25th, and this is our SAVE event, which is the third part of our series, EAT.LIVE.SAVE, and this will be on, like I said, March 25th, and we'll focus on our financial pillar. More details to follow. If you want to look for other events for United Way of Broward County, please visit unitedwaybroward.org, and we have a bunch of different kinds of events that I'm sure will spark your fancy. Please reach out to me directly if you have any questions on how to get involved with Women United, and I will send a follow-up email to all attendees. So you'll be able to have my email address, Aisha's, Dr. Mel's, Leila''s, Kelley's, if you would like to have any contact with them. So I just want to thank everyone so much for such a successful event. And until next time, have a great day, ladies and Brooks. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.